At the moment, most football players are away with their national teams on the international break to play friendly games or the nation leagues or even World Cup qualifiers. But during a global pandemic, is there really a point of having an international break? I caught up with my friend and colleague Youcef Dahmani to speak about it. The international break at the moment again, and it doesn't make much sense because I think it's like the third international break since the season started again in September. And yeah, the players just don't get enough rest because they also have to play Champions League and Europa League almost every week. And it doesn't make sense to me at the moment that they have international breaks.
Yeah, I agree with you, Seb. I think the players are not having enough rest, especially with the season ending so late. The last season, there's not really been much rest for the players. And recently, I saw a stat that 80% there's 80% more chance of players getting injured, and we're seeing that in the likes of Van Dijk, for example, Holland, for example, the actual nation have actually suffered in terms of injuries. Even yesterday in the game against Spain, we saw Nathan Ake get injured just 4 minutes into the game with a hamstring injury. So
That's
obviously
crazy.
that can happen to any player, but yeah, it is crazy that they're playing so many games in so little time.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because they had very little preseason anyways. Like the break that they have from the previous season to this one was maybe 2-3 weeks. And also,
Yeah,
like I get the sense that the UEFA wants to continue with the Nations League, but then why play friendly games in between too? Like
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
almost every nation had a friendly game, and then in 2 weeks or so they will have their first Nation Leagues game. So it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense having friendlies as well. I understand the competitive games, but friendlies, it's not great. And yeah, like I said, we're seeing loads of injuries happening. Liverpool are suffering a lot with injuries. Obviously, Van Dijk's a big loss for them. Now Gomez recently an international break, and that's just in training. He's had an injury, so that just shows that these players are going through a lot, and they're not capable of keeping it up. And
That's
a
true.
lot of a lot of this is to blame in actually the pandemic that's going on in COVID. I think that's got most of the blame in how things are being run at the moment. It's a bit unorganized. Like this hasn't happened before, and it's really affecting the game of football. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's even like the traveling. You know, like these international games, they've got to travel to different countries. Each country has their restrictions. I don't think it's even safe for players. I see when the players arrive to airports, journalists are there. There's people there, obviously, going up to the players. I don't think that's safe either. For example, if they've got COVID, they can pass it on to one player, and that the whole team are going to suffer from it.
yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
ridiculous. I mean, yeah, like you just saw that with Cristiano Ronaldo a few weeks ago when he played with Portugal, and then he basically got COVID somehow, even though apparently the whole Portuguese national team they had not a single other positive case. And then
yeah,
he even broke the like COVID protocols because he took like a private jet and flew back to Italy like all on his own, and he wasn't supposed to do that. And something it's just a lot
yeah,
of confusion like about the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
rules and regulations.
It's also each country has their own rules, restrictions, and yeah, it's just a mess all this. And yeah, we can see that they're playing in empty stadiums as well, but I think it's just a mess really. The whole thing. You see, for example, some people wearing masks in the ground, some others are not, and it's a bit messy. I don't know. I don't know what to say really. It's a bit bit
Yeah,
of a mess, but this is definitely affecting the game in terms of injuries because they're playing so many games. Like they're playing 2 or 3 games a week, so
yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, apparently, I mean, I read on like the FIFA regulations are still the same. Like technically, all the clubs are still obliged to release players when they're called up for the national teams, unless like there's an example that they're not required to release them if they required to self-isolate for 5 days when they basically return back to their clubs. But that's basically the only exception when you don't have to release the players. But that's just ridiculous too, because in a pandemic where your lives could be at stake, or like where you could get infected, like the players should be able to just refuse a call up and just say, no, I'm not gonna travel all the way to South America to play 2 games and then all the way back. Like the risk is just too high. Like,
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's just a term of contracts and stuff, you know. It's messy. Like no one knew this was going to happen either, you know. But yeah, it is hard, to be fair. But I don't think there'd be many players that would reject an international call up, because for them it is very important. So they're probably willing to risk it, if I'm honest, if it's something that they're really passionate about. But yeah, I agree with the fact that if there is some players that don't want to do that, the whole travelling, I agree that it's ridiculous that they've got to play by force, because nevertheless you're going to force them to go to the team and everything, and then they're not going to give their all, are they? They're not going to play properly anyway. So what's the point in forcing a player?
Yeah, it should definitely be their own decision if they want to play or not. And of course, it's a great honor to be called up to the national team, and some players would probably risk everything they have to play just one game for the team. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
So should these international games still be played? Probably not. But UEFA seems to be fine to risking the players' health just so they can get their money.